let's talk about GH gut. So first off, I'm going to have to explain to people that GH gut doesn't actually come from the use of GH. I feel like there's other people that have covered this and they've explained it much better than I have, but yeah, these bodybuilders with the big giant bellies that stick out, people call that GH gut. The thing is that once you actually look at like their scans, they don't have increased organ size or anything. They don't have like, I don't know, like an enlarged colon or an enlarged liver or something from using growth hormone. Not that they don't have a big giant gut, because they do. But it isn't because of the use of GH. In fact, actually, growth hormone is a lipolytic agent. It burns fat. So that's actually the primary function of growth hormone in adults. It really doesn't add to growth very much. But it does mobilize fat, does burn fat. So in any case, let's talk about GH gut itself. And I used to have GH gut, which doesn't make any sense because everyone who knows me knows that I'm broke and I have a hard enough time affording food. So how is it that I could afford thousands of dollars for GH till I could get GH gut? And then on top of that, how did I fix my GH gut? So my friends would tease me and joke that I had GH gut because my belly would stick out even though I had visible abs, because my subcutaneous fat was very thin, so you could see the definition of my abs, but yet my stomach was always distended. And I think that that's also what's happening even in these pro bodybuilders. You'll understand why in just a second. And during that time, I was training really hard. This is years ago that I had this issue. And I was eating just a massive quantity of food in order for me to train as much as I was. I was running every day. I was swimming every day. I was doing, pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups. And then I was also lifting. So I was typically doing like 4 workouts a day. I'd get up in the morning, I'd go for a run, and it was not unusual for me to do like a 10 to 12 mile run. Then I'd go hit the pool, and I might swim 1 or 2 miles as a typical day. Sometimes I would do a really long one. I'd do like 4 or 5 miles. And then I would, go do tons of push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups because I was training to do well on the PST. That's the Navy physical screening test. And so, I would crank out push-ups and pull-ups for like probably 2 hours. I mean, it was just volume. I'm not recommending you train this way. This is a terrible way to train. But I didn't know any better at the time because I was young. So I would just crank out tons and tons of volume. Do a set of pull-ups, do a set of push-ups, do a set of sit-ups, and then just repeat that over and over and over again until you accumulate like 300 pull-ups. It's a terrible way to train. It's very inefficient. Don't train that way. But that's what I did. And then I go lift because I thought, it's important to lift heavy things because I don't know, like somehow I really don't have a good reason to explain why I trained the way I trained. I just did a ton of volume. It's kind of like all the running and all the swimming. I just kept adding volume. Like I said, that's not a great way to train, but that's what I did, which also meant that I needed a ton of calories, which meant that I ate a lot of junk. It was not unusual for me to even eat a whole pizza and a whole pint of ice cream before bed because I would look at my calories and be like, oh man, I don't have enough calories for the day. Because it's really hard to eat enough calories when you're trying to eat meat and vegetables for every meal. So, here I am hammering down, eggs with onions and spinach and all this stuff like that for breakfast, and it's like, that's a lot of volume and not a lot of calories. Same thing when you get around to lunch and you're taking like the frozen bags of mixed vegetables and you're just dumping those in, and you're eating chicken breast with pounds of frozen vegetables. In any case, I'm sure that you're probably connecting the dots already. I was eating just a ton of vegetables and all these fibrous foods, and so my stomach was distended all the goddamn time. Because why? Because of all the food I was eating, the massive quantities of food, and probably gut dysbiosis. I never had any stool testing done, but my stomach was always distended. It didn't matter that I was lean. It didn't matter that my skin folds were 3 millimeters, 2 millimeters. It didn't matter how thin this subcutaneous fat layer got. and my skin folds got, my stomach was always distended because I was always eating, like probably every 2 to 3 hours I was eating another big meal, and I ate a ton of vegetables. And that's probably not all that great either, because you're just hammering down all this fiber. So my stomach was distended all the time. And I think that that's what you're seeing in these bodybuilders, that they end up with these distended stomachs because of the volume of food that they're eating. And I even think the protein kind of distends you a little bit. I mean, we all joke about protein farts and stuff like that from chugging whey protein, but I mean, really, seriously, when you're eating tons of egg whites and drinking whey protein over and over and over again. I mean, I don't think I ever left the house without multiple shaker bottles that had 2 scoops of whey protein apiece because, God forbid, I miss a meal. So, you need to make sure you keep drinking those whey protein shakes if there's ever a situation where you can't get food. So just the amount of food I hammer down all the time, and it's like not good quality food, because really, like, yeah, like you shouldn't be just drinking Vitargo and whey protein. It's not really a meal. In any case, so between the volume of vegetables and all the other stuff I was eating, and then chugging, whey protein with Vitargo, my stomach was always distended because why? I didn't know, but I think it's because of the fact that I probably had some digestive issues going on underneath the surface that I was unaware of. And I think that that's what's happening in these pro bodybuilders, because you'll notice that as soon as they retire and they're not hammering the food, their stomach goes back down. Well, if it was growth hormone that made their organs enlarged, your stomach wouldn't just go back down. You would have permanently enlarged organs. So it's not GH gut. It's not due to the hypertrophy of their organs. It's due to the fact that they eat so much food that their stomach is distended all the time, and they probably all have some level of gut dysbiosis and some digestive issues. So yeah, so that's what I had too. I had this rounded stomach because I was always just hammering food. The way I fixed it is I stopped eating so much and I stopped training so much. So after I was done with everything, and this is, like I said, this is years ago. This is younger, healthier me. Training once a day for 30 to 45 minutes, I don't need to eat like that. And I also realized that I don't do well with a lot of different vegetables. I don't do well eating a ton of spinach and broccoli and cauliflower and onions. Onions don't do well for me either. So there are a lot of foods I cut out. And when I started cutting out different foods that didn't sit well with me, my stomach flattened out. Like, how weird is that, right? I had GH gut. My organs are all giant and enlarged, despite not being able to actually afford something like GH. But the cure was just to eat less and to eliminate the foods that made me have gas and made me bloat. And that's all it was. So I'm just sharing this with you because maybe your stomach is distended, and maybe people comment on you, or maybe you look at these bodybuilders and you're like, oh yeah, he has GH gut. Probably not. He probably just eats the wrong diet for his body. And I'm not telling people don't eat onions. I'm not telling people don't eat garlic. I'm not telling people don't eat broccoli or cauliflower or anything like that. But if it doesn't sit well with you, don't eat it. It's kind of like this stupid, really simple thing. Don't eat foods that make you sick. It's like if you have a peanut allergy, like don't eat peanuts. But that's okay for other people to eat peanuts. If you have an allergy to soy, like don't eat soy because you have a soy allergy. It's just really that simple. Oh, you're lactose intolerant? Then don't consume lactose. It's okay for other people who aren't lactose intolerant. Like, I don't understand these weird diet rules where, like, you can never have fructose. Well, maybe some people don't have a problem digesting fructose. Anyways, that's the point. The point is, this whole thing about GH gut and all this stuff like that, people talk about it. In reality, I think it's just the volume of food that people are eating. And then on top of that, they're probably not eating foods that agree very well with their digestive system. And so, it's really simple. Cut back to white rice and ground beef or something like that, and suddenly your stomach flattens out. Why? Because you're not producing all this gas and you're not bloated all the time. Whoa, magic, I know. Another radical concept.